This followed a motion by Senator SEN.ENYINNAYA ABARIBE, who raised concerns about the complete exclusion of the eastern section that links the four zones of South-South, South-East, North-Central and North-East with other key cities such as Port Harcourt, Aba, Enugu, Makurdi, among others, describing it as inexplicable. On the 26th of April 2017, the federal government laid before the National Assembly a request seeking an approval for a loan of $5.851 billion from China Exim Bank to execute the modernization of Lagos-Kano-Kaduna, Lagos-Ibadan and Lagos-Calabar segments. Senator Abaribe, through the motion, urged the Senate to suspend consideration of the loan request until the correction of the apparent oversight of the eastern part of the country. However, this prayer was not granted by the Senate, following an explanation from the President of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, and Senator Benga Ashafa, that the leadership of the Senate is already handling the matter.
I think the point we just want to make here, which I get the spirit of what we are saying, is to ensure that the spirit of the President's letter is followed through. I think that's really what the emphasis is. And I think let us restrict it to that so that we do not get this discussion going into areas that I think are not in the interest of the unity of the place. I think the points I've made, one is that there should be standard gauge everywhere. And two, in processing the loan, we must see sincerity and in the commitment in the spirit of the President's letter. And I think I wanted to guide you that this motion has been with us for a while, but we allowed it to go because, and I felt it was an opportunity for us to brief you on what steps leadership are taking in correcting some of these observations that you have made here.
Government is a continuum. Yes, government is a continuum. The master plan is on ground. The master plan is on ground. The federal government of this administration has pledged and has promised Nigerians that all sectors will be covered by the rail project that we have. On this note, Mr. President, I want to urge my colleagues to look at this dispassionately and not stoke this particular project. Nigerians are watching us. The loans must be secured, the loans must be approved, and all other things will follow.
Also, efforts by Abaribe to have the Minister for Transportation appear before the Senate in plenary was aborted as the Senate concluded to have him appear before its committees already handling the matter.
That for the railway projects to have a meaningful impact on the development of the country should cover all parts of the country. The Senate therefore concerned that the complete exclusion of the eastern section that links the four zones of the South-South, South-East, North-Central, and North-East, and the key cities such as Port Harcourt, Aba, Enugu, Makurdi, Lafia, Gudi, Jos, Bauchi, and Maiduguri is inexplicable.
There was, however, a consensus by the Senate that being a federal government borrowing plan paid for all sections of the country, every section also needs to be captured.
Provisions of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, which categorically states in Section 15, subsections 3A and 4, that for the purpose of promoting national integration, it shall be the duty of the state to provide adequate facilities for and encourage free mobility of people, goods, and services throughout the Federation. That state shall foster a feeling of belonging and of involvement among the various people of the Federation to the end that loyalties to the nation shall override sectional loyalties. The Senate notes that the eastern narrow rail lines of the Nigerian Railways, originating from Port Harcourt, going through the southeast to the northern parts of Nigeria, particularly to the northeast, are now in a deplorable condition, notwithstanding the federal government's rekindled determination to resuscitate the nation's rail transport system. The Senate notes further that presently the Eastern Rail lines are not in use and trains no longer ply these routes in moving people and goods in and out of the old Eastern region, leading to decline in economic activities. The Senate observes that the deplorable condition of the Eastern Rail lines of the Nigerian Railways has increased the cost of transportation, commodities, and job creation in Nigeria, bearing in mind that modern rail transport system is one of the fastest, safest, and easiest means of transporting people and commodities from one destination to another, as well as offering employment to many of the citizens of the country. The Senate further observes that in the past, livestock and other farm produce were transported easily from the northern parts of Nigeria to the eastern parts by train. With the closure of the Eastern Rail lines now, the cost of transporting people, goods, and services by road has risen astronomically. Worried that in the process of developing a modern rail transport system that will enhance economic growth and development of Nigeria, the federal government's current railways modernization project has included the Eastern Rail lines. Further worried by the non-inclusion of the Eastern Rail lines, which connects the eastern parts of the country to the northern parts of the country in the 2018 budget proposal and recent approved $6.8 billion foreign loan dedicated to this program. Convinced that the people of the southeast and south-south of Nigeria will continue to feel neglected if the Eastern Rail lines, outdated narrow gauge rails, are not converted to standard gauge rails. Further convinced that the Senate's intervention in reviving the Eastern Railways will foster sustainable socio-economic relationship with the people of the southeast, south-south, and other parts of Nigeria, and promote national integration, ultimately boost the Nigerian economy and give a sense of belonging to users of the Eastern Rail lines. The Senate accordingly resolves to call on the federal government to restore services on the Eastern Rail lines, which is currently out of use. 2, the Senate resolves to call on the federal government to include the Eastern Rail lines in its ongoing railway standardization program and reflect SEN in 2018 appropriation bill for implementation, and urge the federal government to include the Eastern Rail lines of the Nigerian Railways as one of the beneficiaries of the $6.8 billion loan approved towards the standardization and modernization of the Nigerian Railways. Finally, I call on my distinguished colleagues and this distinguished Senate to support this motion for equity and fairness. I so move, Mr. President.
Of prayer towards amendment that is calling federal government to include the Eastern and Northwest rail lines in its ongoing railway standardization program and reflects in the 2018 appropriation bill of implementation. Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, urge the federal government to include the Eastern Railways of the Nigerian Railways as one of the beneficiaries of the $6.8 million loan. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Senator Umeh. Additional prayer, yes, Senator Odomani.
Additional prayer, Mr. President.